Okay, today we're looking at what I call an African Thunderstorm. I'll start with a song. The Lord reigneth, let the earth tremble. He reigneth, let the earth tremble. The Lord reigneth, let the earth tremble. He reigneth, let the earth tremble. I want to start with the word of knowledge, July 8, 2024. Forgiveness is a must in the marriage relationship. So make sure that you exhibit this virtue all the time so that you can have the days of heaven on earth. And always take decisions in the best interest of yourself and your children. So be on the lookout, particularly for your children and also for yourself. The good book says we must love our neighbor as ourselves. We must learn to love ourselves first. Of course, An African Thunderstorm is a poem by David Rubadiri. I think it's a poem we had to memorize back in the day. Just telling you the power of the thunderstorm. But there's also something very close to this in scripture. 1 Kings chapter 19, verse 11. This is the Lord speaking to Elijah. Go out and stand on the mountain before the Lord. And behold, the Lord passed by, and a great and strong wind tore into the mountains and broke the rock in pieces before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, a still small voice. So it was when Elijah heard it that he wrapped his face in his mantle, and when that was stood in the entrance of the cave, suddenly a voice came to him and said, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" I know sometimes we see, what is so much overwhelming. The world puts a lot of emphasis on so many things. And sometimes in the midst of all this commotion and earthquake and thunderstorm, we might actually miss that still small voice. And the still small voice of the Lord today is the fact that Christ came and paid the price. There's not going to be any commotion, nobody is going to force you, including this particular podcast. You need to make up your mind when you've heard the voice of the Lord, which is to accept Christ into your life. So it might not be as intense, as what you see in terms of other things that are not the real thing. That is why, we talk about, that, the most noise is made by those that are empty. But the gospel is this still small voice, and you need to make up your mind by inviting Christ into your life, because this is what would actually usher in the presence of God. Everything else is just noise, and is meaningless.